Room tonight to have some very interesting questions. Our first initial thing is we're going to give you 4 minutes to do your initial comments. And we're going to start with, and who did you say?
Scott.
Mr. Stubbs.
All right. Nobody can hear me? I can't tell. No.
It says on, does it just hold it close to your mouth?
So if I spit, you'll know. When they asked me to come here, they told me I had 15 minutes to speak, and then we'd have an hour worth of questions. So all of a sudden, I'm down to 4. Now, as an attorney, that's not possible, but I'm going to do my best. So many of you I know, I worked in the family business for 32 years. And yes, I started at the age of 12, so I violated all of the child labor laws. I worked for more than 40 years as an attorney, and I've helped families right here in Blackfoot protect that which they built through wills, trusts, and good planning. But today I'm not here as an attorney or as a businessman. I'm here as a trusted neighbor, a husband of 49 years, and a father of 4, and a grandfather who really wants to do what's best for the community. This is where I raised my family, and this is where the community, I hope, raises my grandkids. Now, somebody says, well, what makes you different? And sometimes you say, well, it's education. But it's not the classroom type. I can tell you I've got a degree in business finance, a law degree, completed doctoral work in organizational leadership, certified master business coach, Brian Tracy Group, and coached businesses all over the United States. But I've also supported Blackfoot through volunteer work, whether a founding member of the JCs or the president of Blackfoot Kiwanis, and later the lieutenant governor of Utah, Idaho in the Kiwanis. But most importantly, it was being the first soccer coach in Blackfoot, and I coached soccer. Maybe I coached some of your grandkids, some of your kids, because I coached for 31 years. That's real life, isn't it? Basically, you don't learn patience from a book. We learn it from raising our kids. Trust me, I learned a lot. Volunteering, and we don't learn leadership from a lecture. We learn it when we do real life hard work, and we have to be able to do certain things. And that's what real education is. It's about listening, learning, and for me it's by helping the city, by applying my business and most importantly my legal knowledge to help the business solve problems. Now don't tell my wife this.
Or that husband of yours.
Honestly,
Real
do not tell
gentleman,
my
isn't he?
wife this. I don't know everything, okay? I may tell her that, but I don't know everything. And so it's about getting expert advice when you need it. And it's about getting help where you're the weakest. I want to protect our water and recreation areas. Water pressure is a problem. Chemicals in the water is a problem. The amount of new homes, townhomes, duplexes, and apartments concerns me. I can tell you, as a homeowner, the last 2 years, I've had no good water pressure, okay? Safety and accessibility, sidewalks, street lights, well-maintained parks, so everyone, regardless of our age, can be safe. Now, we need less regulations. We need to cut expenses. We need more accountability, and we need more transparency in government. And a lot of people say that, but I have ways that we can do it. And since I don't have time, I'm not going to go into those. But we need to keep Blackfoot a safe, family-friendly in which to live. Nobody should be left behind. We need to become better neighbors, better friends. We need to have programs that help reconnect us, and I don't mean by smartphones. I carry one, I hate it, okay? I see people texting each other across the table. what does it take? A good conversation. So, I want to help this people. My slogan is faith, family, and future. I'm not going to go into the details, but I think together we can make Blackfoot better.
And then we'll just go down to Ms. Arby, you'll be the first one to answer.
My name is Brent Arby. I've been a resident of Blackfoot since 1964. I've been very involved in politics. My father was somewhat. I haven't run for offices, but I've always kept kind of tabs on things that have gone on in the community and with politics. And the reason I'm running is because of my love for this town. In my work, I've traveled to many states and some other countries and met a lot of great people, but at the end of the day, I like Blackfoot. I like to raise my family here. I don't want to move anywhere else, and I don't want to leave it. I have a big, strong passion for the youth. I've spent 35 years running a basketball program. I've coached in city ball programs. I've coached football, basketball. I ran the BMX track down here for a few years. I was on the Bingham Youth Committee for about 5 years. I was on the Blackfoot Celebration Days, we called it Pride Days back then, for about 7 years. Been involved in lots of that kind of stuff, and so I think that we need to figure out how to get some more things here for the youth, some more things to do to keep them entertained and off the gaming and stuff. We need to work on getting some businesses here in town and helping businesses get here, not pushing them out the door. We need to help them get here so they can come here and survive and sustain and bring some services to the town. That'll help us with our budgets and our tax relief and a few other things. But in short, I'm gonna leave it short. I'm running because I feel like I have what it takes to add to this town to help solve many of the issues, and I'm not gonna get into all of them right now, and the main thing is I will have an open door policy. If you wanna come in and bring us your information, bring us your stuff, we'll have discussions about it. If there are things that need changed, we'll get in front of the city council and discuss that, but anybody can call me anytime and come and see me anytime. Thank you.
What are you doing with that machine?
Can everybody hear me?
No, we have a lot of people with James.
Okay, I hate these things. My name's Chris Mattson. I've been in Blackfoot since 2009. I retired here to be close to my family. I'm currently employed through the city, through the police department, working code enforcement. I came to Blackfoot because the city reminded me of other small towns that I grew up in. I had my career in. I've been in law enforcement since 1972. I was police chief of 3 different agencies in towns very similar to size as Blackfoot, some a little smaller. I have seen what growth does, and the main issue that everybody talks about and everybody's concerned about is growth. It's coming to Blackfoot, it's coming soon, and we need to be prepared for it, and that's what my main issue is. I don't want to see the town end up being that town. I want to be ahead of the game. I think we have a comprehensive plan that's coming out soon. Mr. Stufflebeam and his committee has been working hard on that. It's almost ready to go before council. But we also need a strategic plan. If we get a comprehensive plan on where we're going to go, we need a strategic plan on how we're going to get there. What we're going to look like in 20 years from now. If we don't do that now, every year is just a Band-Aid over what happened last year. Next year will be another Band-Aid over what happened this year. We have to start thinking of the future. We need to get started right away because growth is coming. We all know that Shelley is down near the suburb of Idaho Falls now, or Ammon. And it is coming our direction. I've lived in an area where it's now one city from Cheyenne, Wyoming, all the way to Pueblo, Colorado. The whole Front Range is one big city. We're not going to have that here for several generations, but we're going to have growth in the next several years. It's starting now. I'll take a minute of my time to thank those who make this whole thing happen, and that's you folks. You showed up. came to this meeting, and it's not my government, it's not Mark Carroll's government, it's not these gentlemen's government, it's your government. You need to stand up and come to meetings to be heard. That's how we make decisions, is when you tell us which direction you want to go. Do you want to lock them in,
Do you
want to
believe
fence
that?
them in, or you want to fence them out? It's your decision. The mayor of Blackfoot operates the city government. The Chamber of Commerce, you folks as citizens, we spoke just the other day to the Realty Association. You're the ones who make the decisions. And I know that Mayor Carroll has put in a CTV type system in the council chambers so that people who can't come to meetings can at least get to it online. The last council meeting I attended, there was maybe 12, 15 people there. You know, half of this row. It's your government. Get involved. You don't have to stand tall. Stand up. 30 seconds left. That's it. I've been married 53 years or 55 years to the same woman, and I'm looking forward to the next 55. So, thank you.
All this work on this topic. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I am Michael, born, very little known, not many people know me, but I was born to an immigrant mother and a veteran father. I grew up in Pocatello. I lived there until I was in my teens. Moved with my family to Denver area, where I resided for 35 years. My wife and I moved back here 7 years ago to where we could have a little bit of property, some stock, and even enjoy the rest of our lives. My work history is plentiful. Like most of you in the area, I started moving pipe. 14 and fast food, janitorial, I have done just about everything. I've been an automotive mechanic for 25 plus years, where I'm certified at the top of the field. Since moving to Blackfoot, I've been working for the school district, maintenance department, where I have expanded my knowledge in several other fields. I have served as volunteer for the president of the Westside Ditch Company for the last 5 years. Even at a stint working in the beat mill, that was an experience. My agenda: public safety, infrastructure, and parks and rec. First responders are key to everything and every safety, the safety of the public. Keeping this short, infrastructure, water is king. We have to have good water, and it has to be sustainable, or otherwise growing is impossible. Parks and rec, which kind of goes in with keeping our kids with activities to do during the summer. Now, I really believe that we can do an aquatic center of some type, where we have a lane pool, a therapy pool, a fun activity side center. I've seen these, they are possible. Now, how can we do this? That is a good question. I believe we have the citizens and the people here in the city that we can figure it out, where it's not a burden on the city. So, everything is possible. They said that cell phones were impossible to do. We all know that's impossible, that wasn't true. So, thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. Harvey, you'll be the first one to answer this question. So I'm going to combine these two. The first one's more of a statement than a question. It says stop raising sewage rates, stop issuing building permits, add the infrastructure and fees to building permits, stop annexing property. And so then this one also focuses on infrastructure. And it talks about the infrastructure after approving home complexes. And shouldn't we focus on infrastructure first, or that's really the answer. Should we focus on infrastructure first before we annex or approve property?
Well, Well, I'm not a big proponent of annexing unless it's right within the city, right neighbor to it, we need it. There's empty spots in this town that need some homes filled in them. We need the high density, and we need apartments and things, and that's what I classify as the high density, but I struggle when we get to building homes that are 10 feet apart. My daughter lives in Utah, a place like that, and I don't think we have a need to be quite that dense, and that does then put more struggle on our infrastructure that we need to work on. We do need to work on the infrastructure, but we also need, it's hard to say which comes first, because you also need the revenue to work on the infrastructure. And then you need the people here to help share that burden. I think a lot of that is gonna start if we can get some businesses to town to give us services so that we stay here, we spend our money here, and we have some tax-paying entities to help with that. They pay a lot more tax than we do as individuals. As individuals, though, we do have a heavy burden, because it does take money to run anything. Municipality or city takes money, and if we only have so many people to share the burden, it's a little more for each of us. So we do need some growth. I'm not a proponent, I don't wanna live in Idaho Falls or Pocatello, or I would live there. So I wanna kind of control the growth and grow it in a natural way. Reaching out and expanding out to other areas to annex them, well, I don't believe that's fair unless we provide services. Providing services costs money. So I think that we're better to finish filling in town, anything we can do to help here. There's some fees, there's some regulations that we have that are a little tough. You know, I was a builder most of my life. Builders aren't making as much as a lot of people think. And they're asking to cover a lot of fees at a lot higher rate than some of the neighboring towns. And that kind of tells people, don't build in Blackfoot. We need them to build here. We need to look at the long term. The long term is they pay taxes here. They pay for sewer, they pay for water. And so we need to do it in a natural way so that we don't get out of control. Thank you.
You'll be the next one to receive the first one to speak after the next question. Same question.
Same question. I hate sitting down. I do it all day. Blackfoot does need to have all of its infrastructure relooked at. We have got sewer lines, we've got water lines, we've got all kinds of stuff that's years and years and years past due. A lot of them, the expiration date is up. But to do that, you have to have the funds to do it. One of the things that I propose is a full-time, whether it's contracted or hired, grant writer who knows where to go for grants, how to write grants, how to get the grants. Currently, there are 14 departments inside the city government. And pretty much each one of those, if they need something or want something, they write their own grant. Well, these are guys and gals who are good at their financing, they're good at police protection, they're good at the water and the set. They're not real good at writing grants. It's a whole different world. So my proposal is that we get somebody who knows that world and goes for it. So we can get the money, more money into the city that helps with the infrastructure. As far as maintaining, we maintain. The mayors before this group have done a really good job. There's been a few glitches here and there, but really, if you think about it, they've done a good job with the budgets. I've been involved in budget hearings since 1972. I know what they're like. It's like making sausage. You know, it's not a pretty thing to watch, but the end result's pretty nice. And that's what government is. It's not real pretty to watch. There's a lot of people got a lot of good ideas. You got to get it narrowed down to one. As far as the growth part of it is, there's only so much land inside the city limits of Blackfoot. And yes, there are a few vacant spots where some more housing could go in. What do we do when that's done? We have to plan for the future. Almost 50% of the land or the property in Blackfoot is tax-free. And so that means the rest of us are picking up the weight. The churches, the county, the fairgrounds, all of these places don't pay taxes. It's you folks that pay the taxes. And you can't take the whole burden on yourself. So we have to find a different way to subsidize that or get some aid with it. My idea is have more taxable property brought into the city. Thank you.
I agree with Chris on, we definitely need a good grant writer to help find the money that will help, that is free and that can assist this city into building and keeping going forward. Infrastructure is everything. I mean, water, sewer, everything, but it's not pretty. It costs a lot of money and no one sees the beauty of it. Only the people that are laying the pipe that, oh man, this is a nice job, but no one cares as long as it works. But it's everything. I mean, how many times do we see a beautiful car? Oh, that's a beautiful car, but it doesn't run, it doesn't work. So there are a lot of things that need to be done. I mean, it's just, in my opinion, and we have the people here to do it. So, thank you.
All right, he just said I got his extra time. Just want you to know that. Okay, first let's talk about annexation. State of Idaho passed a law effective July 1st of this year. It pretty well stopped annexation. So you now have to have 60% approval from the people, the land you're trying to annex in. And annexation was a way that we could share the tax burden. So, like previously mentioned, we have a lot of tax exempt properties in the city limits right now. We don't get revenue from those properties. And that's a problem, because now you say, well, I want more services, or I need to fix this, or I need to do that. So we have to set priorities. And sometimes some of the priorities we think should be priorities get moved down a little bit because some of the others are more of a critical nature. So we have to realize that, and I think we don't see all of the moving parts that are going on. And I can tell you right now, if I asked, how many of you would like to pay more in taxes? I'm pretty sure I wouldn't get anybody to vote for that, right? So we have to find a way to make cuts. We have to find a way to prioritize. And if we can't annex, then it means even more of a burden of putting, finding ways to cut money. And grant writing is a great thing, if grants are available. They're not always available. So let's talk about water. That's probably a big need. We'll talk about sewer in a minute. But the water system, I know that it was crumbling down the alleys in Blackfoot, okay? Now, you had two choices. You dig it up, put in new pipes, and incur that cost. The city found a cheaper way to do it. They put sleeves within the pipes to make sure that we could still get water without it flooding out, because my family owns Title Financial. They used to be First American, it's now Flying S. We're the oldest business in Blackfoot. But that's how you can save money. You gotta be innovative. You gotta be thinking outside the box. And that's what we have to do. We talk about sewer rates. And the sewer rates, the water rates, everything's gone up. Wells are a problem. They're working on it. We have regulations in the state that we have to deal with. It's just a pain. But we still have to do it. We have to think ahead and make sure it gets done. Now, the sewers, we have a great capacity in our sewer plant. The problem is we can't go out and basically sell that service to surrounding cities and areas, Wapello, Snake River, and all that. So what I can say is there are entities that can do it for us. We expand that usage, we lower our rates.
Okay. 'Cause, 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 'cause,
everyone has had their opportunity on that question, right? Okay, I'm gonna combine these three, and I'm trying to interpret some of them. What are the proper ways to fund projects besides using taxpayer money? Now, in parentheses, it says new hotel. So I'm assuming that they're talking about Bureau, because that is the only entity that has used taxpayer money to promote growth in the city. How do you prioritize and support the success of Blackfoot's small businesses in the downtown district? Bureau has been a big part of that. What do you know about Bureau, and what are your impressions of it? So that are our questions are kind of focused at Bureau and promoting the downtown area and promoting the city of Blackfoot.
I believe I'm on the hot seat.
Yeah, you are.
I don't know a lot about Bureau, to be perfectly honest.
And let me just, for those of you who don't know, that's the Blackfoot Urban Renewal Agency. I kept using the acronym, sorry.
Thank you. But one of the things that I had planned was, with the citizens' approval, was to have a committee formed who did nothing but seek out business. They would research who's looking to move, find them, see what we had to offer them, give them an offer to come here. The other part is with the urban renewal is that needs to be supported. We got a beautiful downtown. We put some money into it in streets and what have you this past couple of years, and it's looking wonderful. We need to add more to it, whatever it might be. Draw more people downtown. The biggest issue is parking. So it might be possible that we could find an area where we could develop a downtown, bigger downtown parking lot or something like that. We need more industry, we need more small businesses and medium-sized businesses in town. They bring in a lot of revenues to us, they bring in a lot of revenues to other people. The problem is, again, if we don't have a place to put them, then, and they want to come in our area, then the county's going to tell them where to put it. They'll put them here, they'll put them there, they'll put them over here. We'll have no say-so on it, and we'll have no income from it. We need to be in control of that. I want to be able to say, we want a light industry, but we don't want it in this location, we want it in another location. Light industries can bring in working populations of $500 to $600 each. I know of a cardboard box company that hires 300 people, they make boxes. I know an aluminum can company that moved to a small town in Colorado because Budweiser was close. They hire 400 people. That's the kind of thing that we want, but we want to be able to tell them where you can be. And that's that plan that I talked about earlier is we need to be able to control our growth. If we don't control it, somebody else will control it for us. As far as bringing more businesses here, I think that's a priority, along with the infrastructure, with the water, with everything else. But it is a priority because it creates jobs, it brings revenue into town. So I guess I will, she's about to give it to me. There we go. All right.
Borough. They have a pretty big budget. I think it could be very beneficial, but I am concerned on, it's a lot of money, and how are we getting the money back? How is it coming back to the city? Is it just being thrown out? I understand that's part of it, but how is it coming back to our city? Because if it raises the taxes in certain areas, people are not gonna raise, or people are not gonna come in with their businesses. So I just have some concerns. I have lots of questions about it. And that's kind of where I am on that.
Okay, I've sat on the planning and zoning committee now for 6 years. I'm chairman. We finally got our first borough this, and by the way, people pronounce it differently, so, but we finally got that. And I was shocked because I didn't know anything about it. And this is what you need to know about it. First of all, it is for urban renewal, but we usually have an anchor building. So in this case, the one we're getting is they want to build a hotel on the US highway. And that's what they want a borough for. Well, it doesn't just take in that building, it takes large portions of the city. It can take up to 10% of the city, okay? And so how's it funded? Well, you pay for it. You, the taxpayer, pay for it. How do you pay for it? Well, the city forgoes taxes on the increase. So we have, let's say you had a base taxes of $1,000 for a piece of property. They put a $1.6 billion project on it. Now the taxes are increased for what 1.6 is. Blackfoot forgoes it. We don't get those tax revenues. So now we have less money to do the improvements. So if we're going to have a borough, it better be bringing in income. The best borough we've had in Blackfoot is Premier Technologies. They brought in a lot of high-paying jobs. People resided. We increased the tax revenue. That one's falling off just now. We've had it for years. A borough can last anywhere from 20 to 30 years. It's usually 20 years with a 10-year extension. It's based upon increases in tax, in the property values, and that increase, that extra tax, is used to pay it off. So you're really paying for it. And you need to know that, because some of these just don't make sense. Premier did. I mean, improving downtown Blackfoot's great. The question you have to ask is, does it really help the businesses? Does it bring business in? And it doesn't necessarily do that. I mean, we have to have more people to utilize downtown. And that's the real key to this. So, I can't give you an answer, but I can tell you that kind of funding isn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world. It's not what we really need if we need to need those extra monies to put them elsewhere. So just be aware of that. I'm not saying they're bad or good. I think they can be great in some cases, and I can say that they could be the worst things in the world for us.
I don't know a lot of the details of borough. I do know a little bit about the details of the hotel, since that acreage that's being built is right next to my acreage. I have 20 acres right here in the middle of town, right next to that. The hotel, though, I do know. I have been in some of the meetings, and it's not based upon the people living here. It's based upon the traffic flow for tourism and stuff. But when you have a hotel, generally in a municipality, if you ever look at your hotel bill, there's a tax on there that goes to that town. There's also the revenue of people that stay in a hotel. Many of them will go downtown, they'll eat in restaurants, they may do some shopping here, so they do bring some revenue. The terms of the borough, I'm like Scott, I think it kind of depends on the term and how long we forgive everything. I'm not a big one in favor of giving great big long extensions of not paying. I think a short one to entice them to get them here, I agree with that, but I do think we need to help it. Now I know also of other things that are kind of being planned out in that district, and they do bring revenue. Years ago, I know of a particular outside business. I personally am a little hesitant when we bring in these chain businesses where a big share of the profits leave. But a handful of years ago, quite a few years ago, the city was looking at giving some tax credits and stuff to a business to build a new facility here. The problem I had with that is the competitors here in town, many of them were paying $15,000 to $20,000 a year in taxes. That particular business at the current time was only paying $800, and the city was trying to help them expand and build to compete against the locals. I have a tough time with that. I like to see things built locally. I like to see the businesses support locally, so they'll be here. And so I think the borough is important to bring in some businesses, but there needs to be some terms that are suitable to the community so that we do collect some revenue off of them and they're not just a burden on us. Thank you.
You got the next question, right? Okay, again, I'm gonna combine some of these. The first one brings up the idea of AI in city government. Do you plan on using AI in city government? If so, how do you plan to use it? I think this is related to infrastructure primarily in AI. So I have another one that says, why are we not using proper reporting to avoid water fines? And then, Blackfoot is spending its resources on water systems deficiencies, storage tanks go empty at night, plus the streets are deteriorating. How do you see addressing these without increasing taxes? And then the last one on this group, so this is primarily infrastructure with a twist on AI. How do you plan on lowering my property taxes so that my mortgage won't be raised again? This is the third year in a row. So we've got this idea of being able to take care of infrastructure and not raising taxes. And one of the possibilities may be AI.
AI can be good, but there's going to be, I saw a report of 40 million jobs affected by AI in the U.S. in the near future. So that's going to be lost jobs. People that are delivering, that's all going to be done by AI. What are these people going to be doing? So AI is a tricky thing because it can start controlling everything. As far as the fines, how some of these departments are ran really needs to be checked and see how we can get fines for reports not being done is a problem. It's inexcusable. To me, that's real easy. If it's broken and we need to fix it. If it's not broke, leave it alone. But that's just the biggest thing. How to keep taxes low, that is a really good question. The whole world's been trying to figure that one out. But either we keep this city small, that means that prices are gonna go up, our taxes are gonna go up. We spread out, we can lower and spread out the base, but it's inevitable. So we want this a destination place. We want to have only people that can live here is going to be $300,000 to $600,000 a home. I don't think none of us want it. So therefore, we need to have high density, lower income housing, which lowers the base of everything as far as the cost of getting into a place.
Okay, AI. And I have to make an assumption here. You know what assumptions mean, don't you? Because AI is very broad in terms of its question. And I'm sitting here saying, well, yeah, I use AI, but I also know that AI is only as good as its input. You know, I went out just for fun and I says, well, draw me a farm lease. I got a one-page farm lease. And so I started inputting the right questions into it, and I ended up with a 17-page, and I says, now we have a farm lease. So I don't think that's the kind of AI you're talking about. I'm thinking that it's more about input that we get from the services we're using to make sure they're correct. I know they do that for the gas meters where they shoot it. There's a chip on there that reports how much that you've used, and they can determine that so it's exact. That is a possibility. Every time you spend money to do that, you're cutting services. And that kind of takes us to the next issue is, okay, do we want to cut our services We want more of our services, we want to have better infrastructure, but we've got to cut government spending. Is there places to cut government spending? My belief is yes, there is ways to do it. And I'm not, let's face it, I haven't gone in, I haven't looked at all the budgets line by line, and I won't be able to have that opportunity unless I'm elected mayor. But again, I don't think we want cutting services cut, but we want to cut expenses so that we can keep our tax rate the same as it is, or even decrease it. Finally, annexation. That's the answer. Spread the burden to more people. Well, the state of Idaho's kind of pretty well fixed that problem for us. We're not going to have that opportunity. We can do some infill, meaning utilize some of the vacant lands. But again, we don't own them, or I should say the city doesn't own them, the citizens own it. And so that's up to them whether they want to do it. And so we're facing a conundrum. That's how I put it. Services, taxes, we've got to make it a great balance so that we can all be satisfied. And I'll promise you this, none of us will be satisfied. I mean, it's like when I go into mediation as an attorney. I tell my clients, I says, I will guarantee you that both parties lose. Just be ready for it. There are no winners, but that's what we have to do. We have to elect people that understand that and understand, let's get the best balance we can by cutting as much as we can from the city, and then we don't have to put the burden on the taxpayer.
Well, I come from a background of having horses and cattle all the time, so AI means something totally different to me. So, my daughter's in the computer world. We were having this discussion a week or so ago when she was out visiting from Utah. Me personally, I'm old school, so I don't even like AI. I think some of that stuff gets overdone and ruined. However, there are some advantages to using it, but I don't know enough about it to know how we're going to apply it. So as we get involved and we get people that, experts at some things, I'm sure it can help us. I'm a little different than Scott. He said he got a one-page, then went to the 17 for a lease. I like one-page leases. They're easier to read and don't take less wasted paper. So I thought he had it first time. As far as the infrastructure, or what was the next part of my question was the development inside. As far as the development, I personally feel like we have a lot of regulations in this town, a lot of fees that are expensive. I know some things that I'm not privy to say here, but if we have fees, I think we look at the short term. We call them impact fees, but we miss out the long term that they're going to help carry the long burden. And so with too heavy of impact fees, we don't get the businesses here. I had mentioned that I have 20 acres in town. Some of it's platted. I looked at it one day and thought, well, I could build 9 homes over here along this side and really not hurt my pasture. But when I run the numbers to do it, and a lot of it had to do with city fees, it was going to cost me as much to develop that land, and it's in an area where you're not going to build big fancy houses that are around it, but it cost me as much to develop it as you could go down to the golf course at that time and buy one of their lots that are already done. So I was going to be giving the dirt away for free, so I have no incentive to develop that ground and build a home on it. And like I said, a lot of that's because of fees. I think we need to take a hard look at those fees, and I know we need some impact fees, but I still think we need to look at the long term and see what revenue are we gonna get off from those homes for what they're bringing in as far as both taxes and the payments on the utilities and stuff. I know a couple of years ago, they went through the county and raised everybody's taxes. One of the letters I read that went to Bonneville and here was that they did it because of the burden for the subdivisions in the county. But the cost of building it, I'll make this short, was done by the person, the builder, the contractor. But I looked at one in particular out here, they were getting about $200 a year in taxes before the subdivision. They were getting over $100,000 after the houses were built. So you got to kind of look at the balance there.
As some in this room, and I don't know if there's too many older than me, I remember when black and white television came out and everybody went, what? And then it was color television. They went, what? Then somebody told us that you could have a telephone that wasn't hooked to the wall. And we all went, what? Right now, I'd say there's probably 1.5 cell phones for everybody in this room. AI is coming, and it's not what it is, it's what we do with it and how we use it. Technology just is so fast and it catches up so quick, but it's here. We're just gonna have to figure it out. When it comes this way, it's useful. We have to find a way to make it useful. If we have cameras or robots or whatever that can see through our city streets to see where there's a leak in or a proposed leak or a possible leak in the sewer or the water or whatever, that would be a good thing rather than have to dig it up and guess. So there's a lot of good things that will come from it. It's coming. We have to learn to deal with it, and we will. There are people who know how to do that, and we will make sure that we get those people who know how to do that. And they probably have their own cell phones too. Back to the growth part of that, it's coming. My concern is that growth is going to come, and when I say we, I mean you guys. This is your city. We're not going to be prepared for it. There's things going on right now that should have been prepared for 10 years ago that weren't. We lost our swimming pool. Dearly loved swimming pool because 10 years before that there wasn't enough forethought on repairs or whatever it needed to maintain it and keep it going, and it fell by the way. I don't want to see anything else fall by the way. I think that there's plenty of room in eastern Idaho for manufacturers, light manufacturers, possibly heavy manufacturers. Who knows if they're going to bring an auto assembly plant to our area. If they do, I'd like to have some say-so in some of the tax revenue from that. And the only way we can do that is if they come onto our property. And our property is the city limits. That's our property. This is our nest. And we need to take care of it. We need to grow with it. And we need to get somebody who's willing to look that far in the future and plan for what's coming up next. Because it's not just us. It's our grandkids. It's my great-grandkids that are going to live here. And I want to make sure that they don't have these worries that we have. Thank you.
Okay, you'll be the next one to start on this question. I have 3 questions. First question is swimming pool. It just says swimming pool. The next one is Blackfoot Streets and reviving the swimming pool. And then what are your ideas about providing a swimming pool? So it might have something to do with the swimming pool.
That's it? All right, swimming pool. I grew up in this town. There was a swimming pool where the courthouse, the new courthouse is, and I probably spent almost every day in the summer there. And I won't tell you how my mother got us there, but she would take 13 kids in a Sprite automobile. It was a 2-seater, no backseat. You tell me how we got 13 kids there. You don't want to know. But the swimming pool is necessary. We are surrounded by 2 rivers, a number of canals, ditches. I talked to a couple the other day, and they love to go out fishing in the river. Their 3-year-old son just about got swept away. Their daughter jumped in. She learned how to swim. She wasn't strong enough to do it. The dad jumped in and saved them all. Swimming and learning how to swim is critical. Swimming pool, I can tell you the history of the swimming pool. It was built when Mayor Dan Daniels was here. He organized a committee. My mother was on that committee to find a design. Mr. Daniels decided, because he had gone over to, I think it was the Carolinas somewhere, and he saw this geodome and said, this is what we're building. You don't care what the committee said. And so they built it. Problem was, metal roof, we have a lot more extreme temperatures than Carolinas do. So the metal expands, it contracts, you put insulation foam on top, guess what happens? It drops down. Yes, we need a swimming pool. The problem is where? Because we don't have that property anymore. There is some sort of agreement, I haven't seen it, this is what I've been told, so I could be totally off base. But yeah, do we start with an outdoor pool with the ability to make it indoor? I think, did you know 30% of our population here in Blackfoot is over the age of 55? I've got two replaced joints, and right now the doctor says I gotta have a third one. My wife has 4 replaced joints. Doing something other than swimming becomes more difficult if you don't have some way to do it, keep in shape and do those things. So yes, swimming pool's necessary. Private funding, grants, all of those things have to be looked at. Otherwise, we're going to have the same problem we have with everything else. Infrastructure, I think I've addressed that a number of times. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. So we'll leave it at that. But I can tell you what, if we're gonna talk about things that should be number one on our agenda, the number one priority, it's Jensen's Grove. And Jensen's Grove brings business into Blackfoot, and it helps our businesses. So that's where I would start, and that's where I think we need to start.
I went to several of the meetings over the years as they were trying to save the current swimming pool. The problem with the current swimming pool is when it was first built, you had a lot of scout activities and a lot of things that took place in there. A lot of families did what we call family home evening and went there. The schools have now got ball games going during the winter time just about every day of the week. That keeps the kids away from there. And in the summertime, at least my belief is, they don't want to swim indoors, so it wasn't getting the personnel to take care of it. We tried to pass 3 different bonds on that swimming pool, one for 10 million, one for 8, and one for 5. Well, if it was originally 10, and we did 5, are we gonna get halfway through and then need to do another one? That was my concern. I never did see a list of what actually needed done. The first one I got told was about the roof system. Then I got told it was about the stuff, maintaining in the pool itself, the equipment. My daughter took her kids over there and the water was quite cold. They said all of that was broke. So I'm in favor of an outdoor pool because all of the communities around us that have outdoor pools are very busy in the summertime. Now the second part of that is during those years when I was running the BMX track, we had parents that had kids in soccer and baseball and different things. And at that time, the baseball fields were over at the state hospital and the soccer fields over by the middle school and on the state hospital there. The BMX, we were out by the golf course. And so parents were trying to get to see their kids at different things. So I like to see more of a centralized. I spoke to a group and we could build an outdoor pool for somewhere around $1.5 million, $2 million tops. They just did one in Jackson Hole where they had to tear out the old pool, build the whole new pool, everything in it, and they did an Olympic-sized pool for $2.4 million in Jackson. They're based here, so they told me that probably for about $1.5 million we could do one here. I don't think we need an Olympic size. I think we just need a good pool of people to go swim in. I'd like to see it put down around Jensen's Grove somewhere. I think there's some empty space that we could fill it in. And then we need to, like Scott said, we need to work on Jensen's Grove. Got some ideas on how to get water there and keep water there. I think we need to work on that so it's full, and then have the activities down there, the pool down there, and the other things that we have to kind of keep people centralized into one really good park.
Same question?
Not the AI question again.
No.
I worked at the swimming pool when I first came to town. Loved it. It was a great pool. It really was. It had a lot that went on. The seniors got to use it for exercise programs. The kids got to use it to learn to swim and for laps and what have you. It was a great thing, and the city needs another one. I think I know where there's 20 acres that I agree with all the candidates up here that we do need the swimming pool. I think Jensen's Grove is a wonderful place to put it. I hate to see all of our sports things in one place. We've got a lot of nice city parks. There's other places we can put some other things besides a pool, but I do think a pool is necessary. It's not only helpful to teaches kids to swim, and that's a safety issue. It gives them something to do in the summer. The folks can let them go to the pool and relax, and they can get a breath of fresh air without what goes on in the house. The other part of the infrastructure part of it, a lot of this stuff, and I'm a firm believer that if we get grants, that we can get a lot of the stuff done that needs to be done through grants. Now, some grants are 100% grants, some of them are 7%, some of them are 50% match. We have one now where you can fix your sidewalks at a 50% match. And it's the homeowner's responsibility to fix their own sidewalks. Well, that's a good thing, it really is. That saves you some money there. If we can find one, and again, hiring somebody who knows where those grants are, whether they're government grants or corporate grants, or they're from, you know, the United Health Center, whatever. If they've got grants, we need somebody who can find them and get them here so we can use them. And we can work on the infrastructure. We can work on new things, swimming pool, upgrade our parks, get even better equipment. We've got good equipment, but get better equipment. All these things can be paid for. What those grants are paying for, we're not. The tax money that we have right now goes further into new items, new ideas we have, upgrading equipment that we need to do. We just need to find a way to bring more revenue in, because the only alternative, as it's been brought up here, is raise the taxes, and we don't want to do that. But there's only so much land and so many people that live in a small area, and unfortunately, the prices keep going up. New equipment, new big equipment for the streets, and I'm done. But we do need to find other alternatives for our revenue services.
Obviously, Jensen Grove getting it filled is a must. We gotta get it resolved, and we do. There's no secret about that. Everybody wants it done. We all know that. I know there's lots of intricate issues with all this, with Mr. Carroll and even previous mayors, but it really doesn't matter. We gotta figure it out and get it resolved. As far as the pool goes, I just think we need to think a little bigger. I mean, if we have swimming lanes, I mean, a therapy pool to where us older people that sure like to soak, we don't have to drive to Lavin to do it. Lap lanes, Olympic lanes, to where we have swim meets, that we can fill that hotel up with people coming into town to use our pool. So, and then that, like I said, that fun activity center, you got all indoors. Yes, I know some people may not use it during the summer, but a lot will. There's a lot of skin cancer going on. A lot of people are worried about their kids getting burned all the time. So yes, indoor, I believe I know it's money. Yes, I do know that. But I think we need to think a little bigger when it comes to that. Because obviously you can swim lessons, all the lessons you can have, therapy pool lessons. I've taken some of them. They do work. I haven't taken them for a while. But the swimming lessons didn't work too well for me. I'm more of a bottom feeder. Throw them in the water, I usually go to the bottom. Thank you.
Okay, these ones are gonna more focus on the departments and also the city budget. Are you aware of how much of the budget is committed to the police and fire? How does the city keep attracting these people without raising taxes? So, city departments, police and fire, do you know what the city budget is this year, and how much of that revenue is from property tax? So how much of the budget is from property tax is the question. In preparation to hold your position as the mayor, how many of the 15 departments have you visited to become familiar with that department and its issues and concerns? Again, departments. There are 15 distinct departments in the city, each with its own state and federal regulations. What is your comfort level in your ability to oversee and manage these departments? So budget and departments.
I can't give you the breakdown. I believe our city budget's somewhere around 28 million or something. I don't know that for positive off the top of my head. I don't know what percentages, and to be honest with you, I can't tell you whether they're getting too much budget or not too much budget until, if elected, we'll sit down with each department and go through their needs and look through it with a fine-tooth comb. I think, I'm a believer you can always get squeeze a little bit of the budget down a little lower. That's just because that's the way I was raised, but sometimes there's needs that we don't understand just looking at the paper. I used to, for a long time, I used to go on every year and get the city budgets and go through them with a fine-tooth comb. I haven't for the last 4 or 5 years, but I used to do that. But that only tells part of the story. That doesn't tell what the actual needs are and what's going on with them. I can look at one and say, well, that sure seems like an awful lot of money, but I don't know where it went. I don't know what was needed. So for me to sit here and tell you that I know all that, I don't. As far as visiting the 15 different entities, I'm familiar with a lot of them. I know a lot of the people in them, but no, I have not sat down and bugged them because I think they've got a lot more to do until we kind of get there. I think one of the first things you do is you sit down with each department head. And my plan would be to sit down and have a meeting with all of them, just to get a briefing, get familiar with each other, and then go one by one and sit down with them and discuss their needs. Get me caught up. I'm looking at it more to get me caught up than them. And then from there, we can work on the budgets and work on the other items that it takes to run the city.
I have dealt with budgets for many, many, many years. I've written budgets. I've gone and fought for my budgets, so I have a good idea what they're like. As far as the Blackfoot City budget, I imagine there's 5 people in here, including the previous mayors and the current mayor, who actually know what the bottom dollar is. I know basically what our department uses, the police department, and I'm amazed they can get by with what they have and give us the service that we're getting from them. All of the departments are the same way. What Mr. Alves just explained on how you get the budget resolved is exactly what goes on in every city, every year to fight for their budgets. Every department has their needs and they want to have their wants. The first thing you do is you make sure you fill all the needs, what has to be done. The wants, then you come back and visit when you figure out if there's any money left over. Every department in this city that I've had anything to do with, and I'd say it's 12 and 15, are excellent at managing their resources, their side of the budget. I have not seen anywhere there's waste and want in the city. We do exactly as he said. You bring in your need list, you bring in your want list. They all sit and knock heads for several months. Budget process starts in May. And they finally get it finalized this time of year. It's not a pretty sight. And there's only so much of the pie you can divide. The problem is that piece of pie, the cost of that keeps going up. If we were to cut back on police officers or curtail their increases for a year or so, you're going to lose those police officers to other agencies that pay better, and you're going to start with new police officers. Well, you don't have a police officer, or I would imagine wastewater worker for 3 years, because it takes them that long to figure out the job. So what we would do is we would start losing good people and hiring new people to train for other agencies, other cities. So I think that the budget process that's going on now, that Mr. Loomis was involved with, that Mayor Carroll was dealing with, is exactly what happens every year. You know, the faces change, but the thing is still the same.
I'll keep this short. Obviously, you know, you can tell that I really like to talk. But police, safety, would everybody want to pay just a couple dollars more to make sure that we're safe? Versus, you know, a lot of other things. Safety is priority. There's no doubt that we got to take care of the people that's going to take care of us. First responders, everybody. That's priority. I mean, we can't, infrastructure, it doesn't matter if our homes are burning down, if we got crime, we got a lot of things going on. It doesn't matter. Police, safety, our first responders are everything. There's no doubt. Like we've all said, I mean, we have to evaluate all the departments, and we got to look at it. Okay, what makes me different? I'm different than all of them because I don't have all the degrees. I don't, but I have a degree in life. I've done just about everything. But sometimes it takes that out of the box thinking and viewpoint that some people just tend to miss. So.
As I've alluded to before, I worked for what was then First American, was the president. We had 35 plus offices. Each office had to do a budget. I had to do my own budget for the overall corporation, including their budgets. And I can tell you that everybody's needs are different. The budget needs for an office in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or Sun Valley, Idaho, are a lot different than the ones that might be needed for a Rigby or a Rexburg. And you have to recognize those differences. But I will tell you right now, I think we are spending too much in certain areas. Now, this is a feeling. It's also what I get from other people. I've talked to former police. I've talked to people that are current policemen. I've talked to people that have relatives in the fire department, in the ambulance department. And we have to seriously look not just at those budgets, but at all those budgets, because I think there are some things we have to question. And that's what I think I do best. I question. I ask the what if question. What happens if we do this? What's the outcome? Not just go in and cut something, but we ask the what ifs. So that's what I think I'm good at. That's what I can go in and do. And that's the, ask the what ifs. I'm not going to go into detail on some of them. I would, but I don't have enough time. We talk about a lot of things that are going on. And I'm just saying this, is that I have an open mind. I don't have an agenda in terms of picking on one department or another. I want to look at all of them. I want to see how they commingle, whether we can consolidate in certain places, whether we can cut in other places, and I think that's there. But that's what I was good at. I was good at finding money in the company. I was good at cutting certain things that weren't necessary. Yeah, they're nice to have, but they're not necessary. And that's what we have to do in the city. And we have to cut. I'm going to tell you right now, we have to cut our workers. We have to consolidate them. On the P&Z, I am seeing things coming through that they're horrible from a legal standpoint. They're poorly written, and they take away your rights. And although we don't get to vote on it, it's a recommendation that we can give to the city council. And I can tell you right now, we are facing some really invasive ordinances that we need to not have in this city.
I believe it is. Okay, these are three different questions that are more philosophical questions and also, but concerns of our citizens. So, it says, I believe in separation of church and state. And then the point of that is, why would it be necessary to have a faith listed on your campaign sign? This one is public services like libraries are under attack. How will you, as the mayor, go about protecting those public services from censorship and budget cuts? And then, so a question on censorship, separation of church and state. And then this last one, there are troops being deployed into cities where the city officials have not asked for it. What would you do if this happened here? So 3 different kind of philosophical questions there. Did everybody get that?
My turn first. The separation of church and state was brought about by our forefathers. It's in our Constitution. They brought that up so that not one group would override other groups. It's equal. We're all equal. Whether we're Mormon, we're Lutheran, or we're Protestant, or whatever, we're Blackfoot citizens. Everybody has the right to believe in their God as they see their God. I believe with our forefathers that probably in city council meetings, it's more important to talk about budget. So I'll leave that at that. That's religion can get you in a lot of trouble. As far as having other agencies, whether it's federal, state, or whatever, come in and dictate to us, I have pretty strong feelings about that. This is our city. If there's a need, we'll ask for the help. We don't need to be forced into taking something that we don't want. We have plans, emergency management plans in effect. If something happens that we can't handle, whether it be fire, flood, whatever, we ask for help. And we have written documents that ensure our help comes from other places and that they have the resources to help us. And that's how the system works. We don't have people come in and dictate to us how we're going to, fight our battles. Because I believe that's a pretty slippery slope. And I don't think that's what our guiding fathers had in mind of our government, was that one entity overrides the rest of them. So philosophically, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. I hope that he lets this lady keep her hand down for another minute. But I'm a firm believer that, we are the citizens of this community. This is our home, our nest. We can take care of ourselves. And if we can't, then we're perfectly capable of asking for help if we feel we need it. We don't need somebody coming and dictating to us or telling us what we need and how we need to do it. That's our job. So I think my time's up.
Separation of church and state. It really, to me, everything kind of comes down to, we got good neighbors and we got bad neighbors. You're either a good person or you're not. It's just that simple. Doesn't matter what religion you are or where you come from, doesn't matter. There's bad apples in every bushel, and and that's where I'm gonna leave that. Yeah, no one's gonna come into our house and dictate what we're gonna do in our city. That's just plain and simple. That's the short answer. And the libraries and the amenities that we have there, we gotta keep them going, obviously. And we gotta support them. Just as much like we've been helping the animal shelter. That needs to continue as well. So there's lots of things that we can do as a community to help these entities keep going.
All right, you all got my card? Guess what it says? Faith, family, and future. So I know the first question was directed directly at me. But let's put it this way. Do you believe in yourself? Do you actually believe in yourself? Well, faith is the action founded upon belief. And that's what it really means. It doesn't mean you believe in a certain religion, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God. It's your belief in yourself. I wrote this down. Faith, because I believe leadership means accountability to something greater than myself. I have to be accountable to you. I have to take action because of you. I need to be there because of you. And so that's how I'm going to answer that question. I've answered on Facebook the same way, and some people just still say, well, that's all about God. Well, yeah, I believe in God, but that doesn't mean you have to believe in God, but you have to believe in yourself. And you have to have the faith to take the action to fulfill your beliefs. So that's what that means. Censorship, let's face it, nobody wants censorship. I hate censorship, and yet we're constantly bombarded by censorship. You get on social media, you get bombarded by censorship. People don't want this said, some people don't want that said. That's a federal issue. We don't combine church and state for a reason, and yet somehow it sneaks in once in a while, but it shouldn't be there, and that's what I'm saying to you, is have faith in your leadership. Have faith in yourself. As to federal troops, when I first heard federal troops going in to states, I thought of it from a legal standpoint, because that's really what it is. It's a legal standpoint. And I thought, well, no. I said to myself, that's not right. And then as I dug deeper, there are federal laws out there that allow some of this to happen. Whether I like them or not, it can happen if they're in violation of a federal law. So we need to know the laws. Now, I want to give you 2 words I want you to think about. Respect and responsibility. I live by those words. I respect myself, and I respect others. And I expect the same back. I take responsibility for my own actions, and I hold others responsible for their actions. And I think that's what we have to do as a society, so that we can come together and be stronger and be more loving towards each other.
I'm going to reverse the order of how I talk about these a little bit. I'm going to talk about the library issue first. I don't know the attacks that we're talking about here, but I do know that there are things that have gone on, and people try to, like they said, censorship and stuff. I don't think that's good for anybody. Although I do think there are some moral things that the libraries need to maintain. But I think libraries are very important. I think we need to teach our kids how to use a library. I don't like them strictly on electronics to try and find answers. They need to learn how to look things up and read them, and read some real history and some real facts. That's all I'm going to say about the library. The next one I'm going to talk about is the faith and the separation of church. Chris mentioned our forefathers. They came here to get away from the oppression of the Church of England, but they weren't all the same faith afterwards, and they fought over that. but they did put in a separation of state and religion. However, that didn't totally say that you couldn't mention God, because it's ingrained in all the halls of everything in Washington, D.C. It's on our coins. It means that we do not come here and preach a religion in you. We don't govern preaching a religion in you. But having faith, like Scott said, that is about a lot of things. Do you have faith in yourself? Do you have faith in your abilities? Do you have faith in the people around you? That's one aspect of it. When it comes to God, I don't think you can separate who you are. If you believe in God and you have moral values, you adhere to those moral values. You don't just change them. You know, I've had people tell me that church is one thing, business is another, and they'll screw you in business. That's not really believing in your church. I think that we have moral values that are important for a reason, but I can't just preach to you my values from my religion. I have to just be a good person and do the best I can. Doesn't mean we won't screw up, but do the best that we can and try to run a ship that is comfortable for everybody so that they're not uneasy where we're at and what we're doing. And then, what was the last part of that one? The other question? As far as the federal troops are concerned, if we get to the point we need the federal troops, I'm really disappointed in what we've done as a city. I grew up in Blackfoot when Blackfoot had a really high crime rate, one of the highest in the nation. That has been cleaned up. If we have a problem to get there again, then we have an internal problem that we need to fix. But if we do get to that point that we need them, one, we ask for them, like Chris said, but I'll let them come in personally if we have to have them, because our safety and our protection is number one. And if we can't handle it, and we've shown that we can't handle it, then we need the outside help.
Okay, I'm going to combine these two. What are your priorities for the people who currently live here? So priorities, and we'd ask you maybe to list 2 of your top priorities, and then related to the people that live here in this area, what are your views on domestic violence in our community and also homelessness?
The people who live here.
What are your priorities for the people who live there?
Well, like I said earlier, it's public safety, infrastructure, and parks and rec. I mean, I'm not sure where else you want to go with that, but, and domestic violence. Well, I have lots of different opinions on that. I mean, obviously, there's no room for any domestic violence, obviously. That's the short answer. I mean, I don't know of a big growing problem with that. Maybe in certain areas, certain apartments. I know there's lots of flashing lights going down my street a lot, going to a certain area. But that's why we have the police doing what they're doing and the judicial system doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I am more winded, or more windy. Maybe that's the good way to put it. I think we've mentioned a lot of these before. I think water. And when I say water, I'm talking Jensen's Grove, I'm talking about the pool, I'm talking about water pressure. I think all of those are really a priority in this town. We gotta have adequate water pressure, not just to water our lawns, but also to make sure that the fire department has enough water. I get concerned, we build these things, and if you have more than one fire in one area, do we have the water pressure to do it? That goes back to wells and stuff like that. I know the city's working on that. You know, parks, we have to maintain them. I know that they're not always maintained. I think that's partly because we don't have the expertise and some of the personnel. You know, I've been on the soccer field for my whole life, basically. I've been in the parks I've worked on the baseball fields. I've done a lot of that when I was younger. So I think those are priorities. I think infrastructure has to be dealt with. We have a crumbling system in some places. We've got to find a way to get it done without increasing taxes. It's always got the tax implication. I'd love to do all of these things, but guess what? We have to think about the citizens and what they can afford, and there's a lot of people that are on fixed income, and we have to be very cognizant of that and try to help them in those ways. I heard them in program that they were doing some low income, I shouldn't say low income, but they had a program up in Idaho Falls where they were building, I think, 60 or 80 units. And if you qualified for it, part of the purchase price, they were going to be less rent, but part of the purchase price, excuse me, went into a savings account so that you could actually go buy a home later on. That's an idea. Domestic violence and homelessness. As an attorney, some of the first things I got were child abuse cases. They were court appointed. And I had to represent the abuser. Let me tell you, the things I saw, the pictures and that, and it made my stomach turn that people could do that to children. I've had to deal with it in divorce issues. They were an emotional draining thing. And yes, it goes back to respect and responsibility, and it goes back to making sure that we can enforce those laws, but it also goes back to people stepping forward, because a lot of this is hidden, and it's never brought out, and maybe they're too scared, I don't know, but it's something that we need to be aware of, and as neighbors, you should know everything going out and around you.
Well, I guess as far as priorities, the first one for me always, of course, is our taxes and our expenses that we have. Getting control of those, and maybe they are in control. Like I said, I don't know till we get in the middle of it. I think we can find some reductions, write the chief of police a new 5-year contract that he can't retire, reduce his salary differences. Just saying that because he's sitting here. I think we need to look at that. Jensen's Grove's a good priority. I'm really big into, I would like to get with the street department, go see every street in town. I'd like to lay out a 4 to 6 year plan or whatever it is that we can afford so that we can get through all of those streets and get them resurfaced and get them fixed up. I know we do a lot of them, but there's a lot of side streets, a lot of things that I'm familiar with that get ignored and need some help. And so I think we need to look at a plan to see if we can get through the whole city over a number of years, depending on what that takes. I'd like I said, Jensen's Grove, I'd like to get fixed up. I'd like to get the swimming pool here for the people. I'd like to get some businesses here so that we get the revenue. We have not only the ability to go purchase here ourselves, but we have the help with the taxes. So I think that's important. I'd like to see us focus on shopping local. When we do stuff, I see a lot of businesses that do build, and I don't ever know of any of the local business, the builders that they even talk to. They always go out of town. I'd like to see when we're buying things for the city that we try to buy it within, but I think we need a number of bids on something. For instance, let's say we need a new police car. I think we ought to get 3 bids, but if a local's within 10% of the lowest bid, I think the local ought to get that bid. That keeps the money here in town, and that lets it circulate, but it also doesn't let the local just have a free rein to run away on us. As far as the abuse, I don't know what to do with that other than everybody being an example and trying to teach and educate. It's gonna happen. I know at one point we did have a facility where people that were battered and abused could go so that they were safe and protected. Most of the people in the community didn't know where it was. I don't know what the status of that is now, but I think that needs to be looked at to make sure we have a refuge for them. That is something that's hard to swallow. Now, the homeless people, I think the best thing to do is just have them all move in with Scott. He's got room, There's programs we can work on there, but I don't know what our limits are. We need to get into that, do some research, have some people help us. We need to, just as citizens, look out for each other and help each other and just learn to be good citizens. Thank you.
I think the fact that I've been in law enforcement since 1972 speaks for how I feel about domestic violence. I don't think there's anybody who has the right to lay hands on anybody else, whether they're married or not. We'll leave that at that. I spent my entire career protecting people from that kind of action. We have currently one of the finest police departments that I've had the privilege of working with. Chokes me up. I'm not sure if you all are aware, but just recently, they made a huge drug bust in Shelby that started in Blackfoot dumpster diving. Our detectives were digging in trash to find evidence, and they brought it to a cohesion and made a huge arrest. That's what your tax dollar buys. It kept those drugs off the streets. Part of those drugs are what tempt people or push people into beating on each other. So kudos. Enough about law enforcement. Chokes me up. My priority for our citizens is our nest, our town, our community is a gem in itself. We are the gem state. We're the gem. It's our city though. We need to come together and figure out collectively how we're going to be able to take that piece of pie and afford better equipment in our parks, more parks, bicycle ways. I would like Blackfoot to become the destination. This is where people come. If they want to move into a nice community where they've got protection, they've got good schools, they've got community activities to get involved with, that's going to be us. That's what I see in the future for Blackfoot. But I can't do it. These guys can't do it. Nobody can do it alone. It's your community. So, at the risk of preaching, get involved. You don't have to stand tall, just stand up. Come to meetings. Volunteer for committees. Get involved in your city, because you're the ones who will decide whether we fence them in or fence them out. You're the ones who will decide how far out our city limits are and what revenues that will bring in. You're the ones who will decide where that auto assembly plant is going to be located. It's your community. You need to be involved. What you need from a mayor is somebody who will run the city government for you and make sure that it doesn't go awry. The rest of it is up to you folks. Again, I'm lecturing. It's an old man thing. I do it to my children. That's all I have.
So we've got time for 2 more rounds, and then we're gonna go into closing comments. Okay, this is a little bit potluck, but it's gonna focus on Jensen Grove, and then a couple more related items. Do we really have any realistic attainability means to keep water in Jensen Grove? Is there so much to offer the area? It is sad that we just gravel pitted now. So related to gravel pit. Important to improve Jensen Grove, are you going to put in the gravel that was taken out illegally? Explain the situation in getting water into the Jensen Grove. Jensen Grove's a big deal. And why does it take forever to get property cleaned up? Some properties have looked the same junky for years. And then these are kind of, like I say, we're kind of bundling these up. The city ran 2 bonds to repair the pool. They both failed. How are you going to pay for a pool? I know that you somewhat addressed that, but that's there. Thoughts on bringing recycling back? Okay. So those kind of 3 items there. Recycling, Jensen Grove, and funding the removal. Oh, and
Thank you.
all right.
We'll start with Jensen's Grove. I already mentioned some of the others, but this is the gemstone of Blackfoot. It's what draws people in. It draws what, businesses, it helps our businesses. But let's put it this way. I'm an attorney. I was given the opportunity to read the contracts that the city has with Snake River Irrigation District. Now, why did we have to partner with Snake River Irrigation District? That goes back to federal and state rules or regulations that say irrigation districts get to do work in the river without having to go through a permitting process. So that's important. We don't have time to go through a permitting process because it's taking years for them to get anything done. As I said, I went out there, I've inspected it, I've seen the head gate, I've been on the other side, I've been in farming and irrigation and sit on a ditch company, and if you go out there and look, and you can, you'll see that the flows of the Snake River, which were changed by the Army Corps of Engineers, go on the west side. And guess what? Our head gate's on the east side. And so we have to build a dike out there. And that's what Snake River Irrigation does for us. Well, when the spring flows come in, those flows are so heavy, it just knocks the dike down. And then you don't have water, and because of the flows are so low on the east side, it's hard to get any water into Jensen's Grove. So there are some alternatives. Can we pump water out before it goes under the freeway? That's a possibility. I've heard it. But again, that's all about talking to the experts. Talking about, yes, the gravel was taken out illegally. I talked with the city attorney. He said that's all been resolved. The city owns the ground, but the federal government maintains the ownership of the mineral rights, and yes, gravel is a mineral right. So, should it be replaced? Yeah, I think the problem we have is, do we have enough storage water rights to keep it full with the holes that we have in there, or do we have to put it in? Again, another expense. So, I understand it. I got 30 seconds and I've only got one thing done. We've talked about the pool funding, whether you can find grant money, private money. They put new bathrooms out on the golf course. That was funded with private money. Can we do a combination of both? Yes. Can we try a bond? Yes. Recycling, I believe in recycling, but it does cost money. You have to have extra bins and do all that, and you have to have people cooperate. And I'd love to talk about property cleanup and private property, but I've been told to stop.
I'll address the cleanup first, because that's what's short. Chris, can you leave and go ahead and write some citations? That's your job.
Do my job.
That's short of that. We do have a lot of areas that do need some cleanup, and we do need to pursue people. I don't know whether it's necessarily writing fines, but give them some stuff, give them some warnings, and see what they need to help get some of that done. From there, Scott's brought a lot of the legal stuff up about Jensen's Grove, and he's absolutely correct on that. I have maintained for the last close to 30 years that, because we were taking gravel out before, that we need to level the bottom of that. When you take gravel out, that becomes porous. So even if we do get the water to fill it for a day or two for our celebration, a couple of days later it's soaked away. I think we need to level it. Quit trying to sell it as a recharge, because that's a spring type deal. And let's put some bentonite and other products in there that will help seal the bottom of that. So when we do fill it, it stays full. And then treat it as a flow through. Go through the process that Scott talked about getting the dikes done so that we can fill it. It's got an exit on the other end, so it's not over full, so we can run it through, and that doesn't hurt the irrigation people. I think a deal could be made there to try to do that, to keep it full. As far as the pool is concerned, it's a lot lower than our bonds have been. Our bonds, my problem with the bonds and why I never voted for them was because I never got a detail of what needed done. And I'm not in favor of just writing blank checks. But if we have a pool and we know our destination and the price, we can look at a bond, we can look at grants, we can look at some private funding like Scott said. There's lots of different alternatives there. It's a low enough number that I think we can figure it out. The biggest thing with anything, when you go get a grant, it's easy to find grants for things. When I say easy, relatively in some ways, but that thing has got to maintain itself afterwards. What we cannot afford to do is build things in town because we got a grant to do it, but now we have to figure out how to pay for it, you know, going forward as a city, and we can't do that. We have to know that we can get the personnel there, the people there to use it, to keep the money flowing so that we can take care of it and keep it. And so those are the things that really have got to be analyzed and looked at when we do it.
As far as the cleanup, I don't know if everybody in this room realizes, but I am the code enforcement officer for the Blackfoot Police Department. That is my job. That job had not been filled for several years because of funding. And the town filled up with weeds, junk cars, trash in the back, that kind of thing. I've spent the last year and a half of my life getting some of that cleaned up and not near all of it. There is a process that we go through. If we find a complaint, or we see a complaint, we have to notify the property, to the tenants at the property or the folks who live there. If they don't clean it up within 10 days or so, then we have a process where we send a certified letter to the property owner. We give them time to clean it up. If it's not cleaned up, then it's back to the city. What do? We either send our crew there to clean it up and put a lien on the property, or we charge back to the property owners. All of that takes time. I've got one case that I've been working on now for 2 years. Man, I send him a notice, he goes out and he cleans up a few of the weeds. He gets a good start. And if we try to give good faith to everybody, if you're gonna try to clean it up, wonderful, we'll work with you. There are those, and there's about 5 in town that we've been doing that with for a long time. The ultimate result is they get a citation or the city cleans it up. The bigger problem is weeds grow faster and there's more of them than need. So my proponent is that we start next year, when the weed season, with maybe another part-time person to assist the code enforcement officer. And we can get to it faster before the weeds get up to where you can hang Christmas tree ornaments on it. So enough about that. That one fell right in my lap. That's my thing. Jensen's Grove, again, is the jewel of our city. That's where people go to relax, that's where they go to meet, that's where they have their parties, and it needs to be not only maintained, but it needs to be improved. There needs to be more of what we have. What we have is taken care of. You can't go down there and find that grass isn't taken care of. You can't find that, oh, she's at me again. As far as filling the lake, there's obviously there's ways to get it done. It's just, as you folks all know, those meetings, that we weren't all at those meetings, so we don't know what was said or who promised to do what. I have my own opinion about that. I think if we just fill the dike in and let the water flow back into the lake, but there's rules and regulations that we have to follow. So, and I'm sure they've all been looked at. Oh, and I gotta stop. Recycle. We had a cleanup last year or last spring, and in that cleanup we had a recycle, and it was very successful. And we're going to continue to do that through the code enforcement part of the police department. Thank you.
Part of my cutting spending is cutting wind, and I could reverb everything these three have already said, and I agree with a lot of it. So that's how I tend to cut the budget. But yeah, everything has been said has been right. I mean, recycling, I've known, have family member that went to a big seminar on recycling, and the cost of recycling is very tremendous. So yes, it definitely can be done, and everybody can do it, but it's gonna cost more, especially in this area. So,
This will be our last round, so each candidate will have 5 minutes. These are some final questions that were given that you may consider in your comments in your last 5 minutes. As mayor, what would you do to help our city departments serve the residents more efficiently? If you weren't running, who would you vote for? That's a tough one. By state statute, the mayor is the chief executive of the city. What have you done to prepare yourself for that role? So those are the final 3 questions that you may want to consider in your 5-minute final wrap-up. So we'll go ahead and start.
I guess the best way to help the departments serve the citizens is like we talked about earlier. Sit down and meet with them. Talk about, look at a plan, look at a layout. I think each of them, need to come with a plan of what, anything that they're working on currently and anything that they have in mind that we need to do over the next couple of years, and then some long term. And then we need to see what we can do as far as making sure they have the funding and the support to fulfill those things. We need to analyze each of them and say, okay, this one's probably not worth spending the money on, this one is, and give our input, but we need to talk to them directly. They're the experts, they have the input, and they know. As far as, I guess, in our final, we're talking about our final comments of who we are, what we're looking at. Like I said, I'm running because I love the town, I love the community. I want an open door policy, I want input from the people. I think we need to look at a better way and a way to put out a couple of weeks ahead of what's gonna be talked about in city council meetings. So people know that they come. The last city council meeting I went to, the mayor got up and he talked about the fact that they don't get very many people at the city council meeting. And it's hard to do your job if you don't have input, if you don't know what people want. If there's an ordinance you don't like, come and let's talk about it. Make a decision, go from there. I think we need to look at like I said, the things that we need, street improvements, the swimming pool is a big one to me, the Jensen's Grove is, but right now I'd like to focus a lot on just the day-to-day needs that we need in the city. We need some better streets, we need our police department needs to have whatever it takes to be able to patrol, to be able to look at the safety of the people. There's a lot of areas that we need to look at. And so I'm just gonna say for my purpose, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, the only thing I can promise is I'll screw up. But I'm gonna give it the best and most honest effort I can, but I am human, so I will make mistakes. I'm not gonna sit here and say I know everything, but I do know how to find answers, and I know how to go to people that are experts in those areas and get some help. And then we move forward that way. I do love the city. I appreciate the people. I know a lot of the people here. I've lived here a long time. And I want to thank all of you. I know a lot of you have contributed and done things in the town, and I appreciate that. And I do think Idaho's the best state, and I think Blackfoot's the best city in the state. And I think that we need to get people to look at it in a positive way. We need to help small businesses, give them whatever assistance we can. Look for reasons why they can open a business, not reasons why they can't. I think we need to give people an attitude, a positive attitude in the community, to realize that the movie's just as good in Blackfoot as it is in Pocatello, or that McDonald's here is just as good as Idaho Falls, so that we support our local people. We have a lot of local restaurants owned by local people and a lot of local businesses. I really like to see those supported. I'm not in favor of bringing in ones that will drive them out of business. I'd like to see them supported so that they continue to succeed and provide service to us. With that, I thank you for this opportunity tonight, for all of you for attending and taking an interest. We get a small percentage of people that turn out to vote. We need to encourage everyone to get educated, to learn, and put their 2 cents in. Thank you. They said, there's one thing that I forgot about. They wanted to know who I would vote for if I wasn't running. Maybe Santa Claus? I don't know. Of the group that's here, and I'll give you my answer, and I'll give you my reason why. The last few days, we've done some things together and got to know them better, understand their positions, and to be honest with you, I think they're all good people. I think they all have the right heart and the right intent. At this moment, I'd have to say I'll cast my vote to Scott, just mostly because, like me, he's been a long-term resident of town and has just a little better understanding of some of the things. He's already got some of that education, so that's where I'm at.
All right, the questions, one of the questions was how to make the departments more efficient. I've worked with most of the departments. There are a couple that I've been in contact with but not worked with. Those that I've worked with are running smooth. They're all running really well. The only thing, I'm a proponent of training. I'm a bigger proponent of cross-training. I think that the way to make a department better is to have more people know what's going on in it. Instead of one man knowing exactly everything that needs to be done and not share it with his workmates, he should take the next man down and teach him. And he should take the next man down and teach him his job. So that if in the event that somebody's sick, somebody gets hurt, somebody, God willing, it doesn't ever happen, somebody passes, we have somebody to step into that position and keep moving. We don't have to stop what we're doing and figure out who's gonna do it. We have people in line to do it. That's the only thing I can think of that would make it run any better or any smoother. All of the department heads that I've dealt with are dedicated Blackfoot City employees. If you want to see a guy get irate, turn your sprinkler into the street and have Princeton drive past you. He'll come up and cut your hose into little bitty pieces for you. The department heads are the best that I've worked with, the best that I've seen. So we'll leave that one at that. And one of the questions was, what have you done to prepare for being a chief executive of the town? I was chief executive of 3 different police departments. Police departments are different because you deal with the 5% of folks that you generally don't meet, but you deal with them every day. So we deal in police work, we deal with the hardcore. We deal with the people who don't like to be norm. So you get a sense of how to deal with emergencies calmly. You get a sense of how to plan, prepare for, and work forward with operational things that need to be done. So that's where I come from. That's been my career, is planning and preparing. The last one they had was preparing for the future for Blackfoot is up to everybody. We do have, we've talked about it here, everybody up here knows growth is coming. I want the city to be prepared for that growth. I want the city to know 5, 10, 20 years from now, this is pretty much what it's gonna look like. This is pretty much the way it's gonna be, because we planned it that way. It was our plan to do it. We have to have that. If we don't, in absence of us having a voice, somebody else will have that voice. And I just do not leave it up to somebody else to plan our city 20 years down the road. That's your job. It's your city. And I hope everybody takes it to heart that this is our city and speak up. Any little idea might turn into something big. There's no dumb ideas. You've been told that since you were in 3rd grade. There are no dumb ideas. Come to council meetings. Speak up. If you've got a gripe, bring it up. If you've got a good idea, bring it up. If you've got a bad idea, bring it up. And they'll let you know. But it's your city. And I hope that you all, whether you vote for me or any of the other candidates, that you keep that in mind. That we, whoever takes this position, works for you. It's not the other way around. You dictate to us how you want to see your city 20 years from now. You come and tell us what you want. We make it happen. That's how that works. And I guess I'm short on time. I'll give you back that minute I took from Ron. The question. Oh, who would I move? That is, I don't know who wrote that, but.
I'll answer that one for you.
I defer.
Okay, pick your children, which one's the best? There you go. You can answer that one, then you can answer this one. Okay. Well, they're teenagers then, it's a different story. Because I like all these men. So, yeah, you don't ask, it's just not a good question, not a good answer. So, how can I better serve the people? How can I serve them? Transparency, call the mayor. I know that phone's gonna be ringing off the hook. I envision it. It happens to me all day at my work right now. And being able to make those tough decisions right now and be able to stand up for why you made those decisions. And also being a person, being able to stand up and say, yeah, I made that decision. In hindsight, yeah, I wish I would have made it better. There's no doubt. And being honest and being able to say that. That is what you voters want to know. You want to know the answers. You want to know the truth. I'll give you the truth. Do you want it? You want it kind of softly or right in the forehead? That's what I'll give you. It comes from the Danish in me, right between the eyes. How was I prepared? What has prepared me? All the jobs I've had, the positions I've had. Okay, we'll go back to the very beginning. Fast food. Sure, I was 16. I was assistant manager in a month and a half over other people that have been there for years. Why? Because I was able to manage and lead people. And I was able to get along with everybody. I was one of the guys that, sure, I played sports. I did all that. But I got along with the guys out smoking, the cowboys. I got along with all of them. I fit in with all of them. I got along with them, and I could relate with all of them. And that's what helped me bridge the gap between our whole community. Because we're all different backgrounds. We're all different. We're a melting pot. But be able to explain to you why we were doing this or why we were doing that. That's what y'all want to hear. And you don't want just rhetoric and a lot of hot air. I mean, I'm just not that way. So, thank you for coming out. I know there's a lot of people that aren't here. I don't think that they don't care about this community. I think they're tired, they have small kids, they've worked all day, they come home, go down to this, and yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. You know, how about if we just go over to Kevin's place and get a burger and then go home? That sounds like more fun than going to something like this. But I care about the city. And that's why I wanted to run. I felt like I needed to run. I don't know if I'm going to in or not. I don't know. But I know I needed to do this. So, thank you.
I would say that one of the most important things, as with regards to the first question, is communication. We don't have the communication we need from the city. I would think that, it would be nice if the street department, maybe when they went down the streets and they saw some problems, maybe check with a few people and see, hey, what are the problems on the street? What are you seeing that we may not see? Communication is really critical. We need to ask. We need to get out of our cars. We need to ask people. I have talked to many people this fall, and I am amazed at what I hear. But what's amazing is that most of them have the same thing to say. And so I think that's where we have to start. We have to have transparency, but we have to talk about it. And we don't get people to the meetings, to the city council or anything like that. But maybe we need to be the ones, and I say we, the city, needs to be the one that makes the posting on there. Yeah, they post the agenda, but you don't really understand it if you don't see what's really going on with the agenda. You need to know what that item in the agenda means. Maybe a brief summary would be helpful, because then you might have a little bit more incentive to be involved. Okay, second question. Now, I really like you two, but you gave a great political answer. You sounded just like a politician by avoiding to answer the question. So, and it's funny, but today, you would think I wrote that question. I mean, I honestly was thinking about this today, is that what if they asked the question, who would you vote for if you weren't running? And I actually thought about it, and that just scares me when I actually guessed a question. But I don't know the two of you as well as I know Mr. Arby. And we did have a long discussion, and I got to know him a little better. And so if I wasn't running, at this point, without knowing anything more, if I had to place my vote today, then yes, I would probably place it with Mr. Arby. Does that mean I wouldn't change it tomorrow? No, it doesn't. But that's an honest answer, and I think that's what you wanted. Okay, let's talk about what's prepared me and what makes me different. My legal background, being a contract attorney, that has made all the difference in the world. I sat on the P&Z, or I'm sitting on the P&Z for 6+ years, and I will tell you, going through the new ordinances that they're proposing, finding out what some of the old ordinances are causing problems with, that has really prepared me. That's half the job. I mean, let's face it. Knowing that part of it is really helpful and really gives me a step up. The other thing is the fact that I was president of First American. We had 35+ offices. We had over 300 employees. And the fact that I did budgeting, I actually wrote the personnel handbook. I ran the HR department for all of those. And I know where to look. I know what to do. And I've built teams. And whether it was at high school or whether it was in the business, I built teams. And teamwork is the key. If you do not have teamwork between the 15 departments, they all have to work together as one. If they don't, the city starts to fall apart. Now, I think I've answered the 3 questions, so I'm gonna end with this. I got 30 seconds. My campaign is built on the 3 simple words: faith, family, future. Faith, because I believe leadership means accountability to something greater than myself. It means accountability to you. Family, because that is really the heartbeat of our city. And the future, because we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to make Blackfoot even better than it is right now. So I'm going to ask for your vote, but more importantly, I'm going to ask for your trust. Together, we can make sure that Blackfoot continues to be the kind of place where people feel safe, respected, and proud to call home.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't you love living in Blackfoot? Thank you for these candidates. Thank you to the